Welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into a seriously fascinating chapter of global politics, and that is contemporary South Asia. This region is a massive puzzle of profound paradoxes. It's a place where you literally have intense turbulence crashing right into extraordinary hope. So we're going to explore how, even with all the border disputes, the ethnic strife, and some pretty steep economic hurdles, there is this incredible unifying thread running right through these nations.
Okay, picture this for a second. Why does an India-Pakistan cricket match perfectly capture the whole essence of South Asia? I mean, we've all seen it, right? The absolutely fierce rivalry on the pitch. But if you look closely at the stands, you'll also see this incredible goodwill and just genuine hospitality shown to the visiting fans. It's honestly the perfect analogy for the region. You've got rivalry and goodwill, hope and despair, mutual suspicion, and genuine trust, all just coexisting side by side.
To get our bearings, let's define exactly what we mean by South Asia. It is this highly distinct geopolitical space comprising Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, the Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Bounded by the towering Himalayas and these vast oceans, this space contains just unbelievable linguistic and cultural diversity, all packed within a naturally insulated geography.
Let's take a quick look at our roadmap for this explainer. We're breaking this down into 5 parts. First, the overarching demand for democracy across the region. Then we'll look at Pakistan's military-civilian struggle, Bangladesh's fight for freedom, Nepal's transition from a monarchy to a republic, and finally Sri Lanka's ethnic conflict. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The demand for democracy.
Guys, just look at this number, 88%. A recent, really massive survey of ordinary citizens across the 5 big countries of this region came back with a staggering 88% of people saying they find democracy either very suitable or suitable for their country. This isn't just the political elite talking. These are everyday, ordinary citizens, rich and poor, from entirely different religious backgrounds, all positively backing the idea of representative democracy. It's huge.
And what's really interesting when you break that sentiment down geographically is that you see this widespread preference for democracy practically everywhere. You can see a super stark contrast here. We've got 69% support in Bangladesh, 70% in India, and 71% in Sri Lanka. The one notable exception is Pakistan, sitting over there at 37%. But honestly, looking at the whole picture, South Asia completely shatters that old, outdated assumption that democracy only flourishes in wealthy Western countries.
And the developmental data we're looking at proves just how remarkable that democratic spirit really is. Check out the contrasts. You have Sri Lanka boasting a high life expectancy of over 75 years and a GDP per capita of over $11,000. But then, look at Nepal, with a GDP of just $2,433, or Pakistan grappling with higher infant mortality rates and literacy at just 57%. The big takeaway here is that despite these very severe economic and developmental challenges, the aspiration for a democratic system holds strong. It proves that the desire to have a voice isn't some luxury item, it's a fundamental human drive.
Moving on to Section 2, Pakistan, military versus democracy.
Now, to truly understand Pakistan's political landscape, you have to follow this rapid ping-ponging back and forth between civilian and military rule. Right after independence in 1947, General Ayub Khan took over. Then came General Yahya Khan. Following the massive crisis in 1971, an elected government under Zulfikar Ali Bhutto took power. But that didn't last because he was removed by General Zia-ul Haq in 1977. Democracy made a comeback in 1988 when Benazir Bhutto was elected, only to be interrupted yet again in 1999 by General Pervez Musharraf's coup. It is just this continuous, chaotic cycle of democratic starts and military stops. So the big question is, why does this keep happening? Well, there's a mix of internal and external factors at play here. Internally, you have the social dominance of the military, the clergy, and the landowning aristocracy, which frequently leads to the overthrow of elected governments. Plus, the ongoing conflict with India really empowers pro-military groups who argue that civilian political parties are just flawed and selfish. And externally, there's been a real lack of genuine international support for democratic rule. Actually, Western nations have historically backed military regimes in Pakistan out of fear of global terrorism, basically viewing the military as a necessary protector of Western interests and nuclear security. Before we move on from India and Pakistan, I want you to consider this really provocative question. If a deeply divided Germany could be reunited, why can't the people of India and Pakistan at least travel more easily to each other's country? It's a question that brilliantly highlights the tragic absurdity of having such rigid borders in a space that shares so much history and culture.
Section 3, Bangladesh, Fight for Freedom.
The journey of Bangladesh has been incredibly turbulent. From 1947 all the way to 1971, it was known as East Pakistan, but the people there deeply resented the cultural and linguistic domination coming from West Pakistan, especially the forced imposition of the Urdu language. So, in 1970, the Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, won a majority in the elections, but the West Pakistani leadership flat out refused to hand over power. The result of that? The 1971 War of Independence, which ended with the creation of the new nation of Bangladesh. Sadly, the struggle didn't end there. After a shift toward a presidential system, Sheikh Mujib was tragically assassinated in 1975. A series of military takeovers followed until massive, student-led public protests in 1990 finally forced General Ershad to step down, which paved the way for multi-party elections.
And I want to pause here because this absolutely brilliant mural illustrates the sheer human cost of that freedom. This is Noor Hussain. He was a student protester who gave his life fighting against General Ershad's military rule in Dhaka back in 1987. Painted right there on his back were the words, "Let democracy be freed." It's just an incredibly powerful reminder that representative government in this region wasn't just handed down. It was fought for in the streets by ordinary people demanding their fundamental rights. All right, Section 4, Nepal, Monarchy to Republic.
For many, many years, Nepal was a Hindu kingdom where the king retained absolute control. But during the 1990s and early 2000s, Nepal's political scene was completely defined by a fierce three-way ideological struggle. It was a triangular conflict. You had the monarchist forces, backed by the royal army, the pro-democracy forces, pushing hard for a more open political system, and then you had the Maoist guerrillas, who strongly believed in armed insurrection against the ruling elite. Let's look at exactly how this historic transition unfolded. In 1990, facing immense pressure, the king actually accepted a democratic constitution. But unfortunately, it was short-lived. By 2002, the king completely abolished the parliament. Well, this overreach sparked immediate action. In April of 2006, a massive, largely nonviolent countrywide protest movement led by the Seven-Party Alliance and the Maoists literally forced the king to restore the house. And finally, in 2008, the monarchy was officially abolished, and Nepal emerged as a democratic republic. It's a stunning example of how a massive civilian movement successfully and peacefully defeated an absolute monarch.
And that brings us to Section 5, Sri Lanka, Ethnic Conflict.
Sri Lanka is super unique in the South Asian context because it has successfully operated a democratic system ever since its independence in 1948. It hasn't suffered the military coups we saw in Pakistan or the absolute monarchy of Nepal, and it boasts some really impressive economic and health indicators compared to its neighbors. But its stability was deeply, deeply threatened by a completely different source: severe, deep-rooted ethnic exclusion that eventually led to demands for secession.
To understand this, we have to look at the post-independence politics, which were heavily dominated by the majority Sinhala community. Sinhala nationalists held this exclusionary belief that Sri Lanka belonged only to them, creating deep hostility toward the large number of Tamils who had migrated from India. Because Tamil concerns were systematically neglected and political concessions were denied, it sparked a fierce militant backlash. This neglect directly led to the rise of the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, or LTTE, who demanded total secession, plunging the country into a prolonged and devastating civil conflict.
So looking back at everything we've covered today, the military rule, the ethnic warfare, the monarchies, and extreme poverty, the relentless desire for self-determination in this region remains remarkably intact. It really forces us to ask, how has the totally diverse, turbulent experience of South Asia expanded the global imagination of democracy? It proves, absolutely without a doubt, that the aspiration to have a voice transcends wealth, it transcends religion, and it transcends historical conflict. So what does that mean for the future of the entire developing world? I'll let you think about that. Thanks for joining me on This Explainer.